Okay. This is the review for Unit 4 test. So we have two things subtracted for number 1. We need to show all steps, by the way, for the problem. And then we should circle the best answer, the best letter, sorry. So we have the square root of negative 242 minus 2 times the square root of negative 32. So we know we have I involved. We know we have two things subtracted. So let's simplify each of those things first. So the first thing is has an I, so we know we're going to have an I has a negative under the square root. So we know we're going to have an I in our answer. So the first piece, the first square root, 242, if you cut it in half, divided by 2, you get 121, and that rings a bell because that's 11 times 11. So we know that we have 11 on the outside, and 2 will remain on the inside. So we've done a lot of these already, so we should be okay by now. And so this is subtracting, and over here with 32 is 16 times 2, so the 16 comes out as a 4. Well, we already have a 2 in the front, so since we have a 2 here, and we're going to have a 4 also outside because the square root of 32 has the 16 in it, the 4 times 2 is 8. So we have really now 8 on the outside. And we have an I because there's a negative under the square root. And what's left is, again, the square root of 2. So it looks like we have 11 of these things. If we think about it, we have 11 of these things. Take away 8 of the same things, the I square root of 2's. So, or you could say 11I of the square root of 2's minus 8I of the square root of 2's. How many I of those square root of 2's is left or remaining? 11 take away 8 is 3. So we have 3I of the square root of 2. So you would circle the C. And you need to show that step in order to get credit for the problem. Otherwise, you get 0 for it. So, what else? Square root of 80 is 4 times the square root of 5. And we have an I because there's a negative under the square root. So if we copy the problem down, which I would highly recommend, got to show some work if you want any credit. Okay? And it looks like I've got it. I mean, that's right there. D, right? Subtraction, so we know we distribute the minus sign. So we have a 4 plus a 2I minus 5 plus 5I. And we can put together things that are the same. So the stuff without i's is negative 1. And the stuff with i's is 2I plus 5 more I is positive 7I. And we have our answer. Circle it. We showed our steps. Here we multiply because we're foiling. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 times the negative 6I is negative 24I. Negative 2I times negative 1 is positive 2I. And we have negative 2I times a negative 6I, which is a positive 12I squared. And we know that's going to be a negative 12 by now. We should know that by now. So these expressions are all equal, put an equal sign. Okay. The things that are the same, the not plain old numbers, negative 12, negative 4. So we have negative 16. Yeah, right? And then we have some I stuff. So if we look at the I stuff, we have 2 I's and negative 24. 2 minus 24 is negative 22. Negative 22I. So that's our A plus BI. The I comes second. We can circle it if we want. 5 minus 3I squared is double 15I. Let's say 25. Double 15I, because we go 5 times 3 is 15, and negative 15. So double that is negative 30I. And then plus 9I squared. Plus 9I squared. And then we have plus negative 1 minus 6I. So I've got stuff that I can put together. So that means the stuff with no i's, and that's no I, to be honest, because it's a -9. So by the way, what do you call what if you come across a deer without eyes? A deer without eyes, what do you call him? No idea. Okay, 25 minus 1 is 24. Put equal signs because they're all equal. And we can put the 30i, minus 30i and minus 6i is minus 36i. Here we have to multiply by 6 plus I on the top and on the bottom. Okay, so we have to FOIL that out twice. On top we'll get negative 54 plus 9i minus 3, I think. On the bottom we'll get 36. The i's cancel, plus 1, so we have 37 on the bottom, right? We have 37 on the bottom. We have negative 57 on top, right? Let's get rid of that. Negative 57 plus 9i, is that right? Yeah, and then 37 on the bottom. And we should be able to split this up into negative 57 over 37 plus 9 over 37i, which are equivalent to negative I. So if we do 3 divided by 4, that's has a remainder of 0.75, which tells us that this first one is one of our answers. Okay, it's equivalent to negative I, yeah. If we do the second one, 31 divided by 4, we get something like 7.75. Okay, and then we have 0.75, so that one's good too. You might remember the I squared, I3, I4, that the remainder being 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 0.0, like no remainder. You would have one of these 4 answers, which is I, negative 1, negative I, and 1. Okay, so I think if you do out the next one, you also get it, but not the last one. Okay, so that's number 7. 8, how many roots? Well, we have to solve it. So take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus the square root of 512, which I don't off the top of my head. Just, well, 256, so that's 16, right? So we got 16 square roots of 2, I think, something like that. So we should put those 2 answers on these 2 lines, and it has 2 roots, right? So what else? This one's kind of obvious because the roots are the solution set of the roots, which are the x-intercepts, which are negative 5 and negative 3, so B, okay? We got this one factored form. Well, factor it. So if we factor it, and we did learn how to factor it, even if you say you were absent once, so this would be equal to like negative, and if you factor something, you just list the factors. And all you're doing is doing that. And you've got the 2 factors because it's something multiplied by itself. Just like if I had 25 and I said, hey, what's the factors? Well, the factors are 5 and 5. Okay, well, what's the factors of something squared? Well, it's the, so 25 is 5 squared. What are the factors of that? Well, 5 and 5, all right? So we have x minus 5 on top here, and the roots would be, if we set each one, x minus 5 equals 0, plus 5, x equals 5. So a 5 is our only answer for this, which basically tells you that all of these are bad and this is your only possible answer, right? Okay, so solve by factoring. Well, 2 is a common factor for all these things, so if I divide out the 2 in my first step, I get x squared minus 9x plus 18, and then if I set that equal to, I continue to factor because I'm not done yet, x times x is x squared. Two numbers that multiply together to give me 18, but we'll add up to the middle number, which is negative 9, will be negative 6 and negative 3, which is negative 9. So x equals 3 and x equals 6 are my two solutions for that. Here I complete the square, so I kick that 8 over there, and I have x squared minus, and I need half of the middle number, and then square it. And half of that middle number squared, half of that negative 12 squared would be 36 plus 36 plus 36. That gives me a perfect square trinomial that I know how to deal with because we've done a million of these. So 36 minus 8 is 30, 29, 28. Is that right? Yeah. So take the square root of both sides. X minus 6 equals plus or minus. The square root of 28 is 2 times the square root of 7. X equals, add the 6. Okay. The number 13, which I think I had wrong on the first thing, let me say, just because of my handwriting, but 2x squared plus 6x plus 7 equals 0. A is 2, B is 6, C is 7. So minus B would be, the opposite of the B would be negative 6, plus or minus the square root of B squared, so that's the 6 squared. 6 squared is how much? 36, okay? 6 squared minus 4 times A times C, 2 times 7. So that gives me all of that over 2 times the A number, which gives me 4. This is my x. So that x really is, let's see, negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 4. And I can break that down into negative 6 plus or minus. Square 20 is 2 square roots of 5 over 4. And it's like the simplifying just never seems to end. They're all even numbers, so cut them in half. Negative 3 plus or minus 1 square root of 5 over 4. You can leave it that way if you want. Okay? If it had eyes with it and everything, I would put it in the standard form for complex number a plus bi. Yeah. This one, solved by quadratic formula. X squared minus 2x minus 7 equals 0. Minus b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. That's my x. So my x is, what's the square root? What's the discriminant here, by the way? 4 minus, or 4 plus 28. So square root of 32 is what that really is under there. So that's going to be 16 times 2, so 4 square roots of 2, right? So I've got 2 plus or minus 4 square roots of 2. All that's over 2. Cut it in half. Divide everything by 2, or you will get a point off on this. So that's 1 plus or minus 2 square roots of, 2 square roots of 2. We divided everything by, you don't divide under the square root. That square root of 2 is untouchable. It's being protected by the square root. But you can divide everything else by 2 on that because they're even numbers. This is easy to solve just with factoring. Minus 10x plus 9, I think. Let's see. Does 9 give me an easy factors to add up to negative 10? How about negative 9 and negative 1? When you multiply them, you get 9. When you add them up, you get negative 10. Perfect. Boom, boom. X minus 9 minus 1. So my answers are x equals 9 and 1, or 1 and 9. Yeah. So factor if you can. I'm going to bring the x squared over to the other side because I think I'd like to make it a positive. So if I bring everything over to the other side and make that 0, you don't have to, but kind of feels easier. X squared is positive now, which is great. Minus 4x plus 4x and 1x is plus 5x. And then we have plus 7. And minus b because 7 doesn't look like it's going to give me good factors to solve this with factoring. And I don't know, I could do it with other ways, but I'm going to, quadratic formula, minus b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4 times 1 times 7, 4 times 1 times 7, 28. So it's going to be negative 3 over 2a. That's my x. So what is x? Negative 5 plus or minus some square root with a negative number under it. So it's going to be I times the square root of the positive number over 2. And that just gives me negative 5 over 2 plus or minus square root of 3 over 2i. That's the best way to write that, really. You have to put it in a plus bi form. Okay? That would be really nice. This looks like an easy difference of two squares. a, 2, 2, plus minus. This is a difference of two squares. A equals negative 2 and 2. Yay. Whoops. Give that a squiggly bracket 2. Negative 2 and 2. Same thing here. Looks really close because you have 16a squared can be 4a times 4a. And we have a plus minus because it's a difference of squares. We don't do this when it's a plus, right? So we have 8 and 8. So that's equal to 0. So 4a plus 8 equals 0 and 4a minus 8 equals 0. Minus the 8 divided by 4, negative 8 over 4. That's negative 2. So x equals negative 2. That's one of the answers. And then the other one is plus the 8 to both sides. And then divide by 4, that's going to be 2. And this one here, a squared equals negative 4. Square root both sides. A equals plus or minus 2i. That's it.